Everybody is familiar with different types of transportations, like trains, buses, and of course cars. But these vehicles, especially the ones that go on the road, would be nothing without asphalt. Asphalt is something very simple. It's basically stones, sand, and bitumen mixed together and laid on a flat surface. Of course, one of the most important parts of it is the bitumen. Nowadays, bitumen is gotten from oil, but back in the day, they didn't know they could extract bitumen from oil. So how did they get it? It's not only oil that carries it. You could actually naturally find bitumen that looks like this, like a form of black rock. And if you heat it up, it will turn into a black gooey liquid. It's interesting to note the first time bitumen was used and it was written about in history was the Sumerians lining their boats with bitumen so it does not leak water inside. You can also find ancient structures that were made in modern day Iraq and they're lined with bitumen so water would not get inside. In ancient Persia, the bitumen was called moom. And it's interesting to know that one of the materials the ancient Egyptians used to mummify a body was bitumen, and that's where the term mummy comes from, because moom was the name for bitumen, and mummy comes from that word. Ancient Romans would get their bitumen from around the Black Sea. Maybe that's the reason the sea is called black, because there was these black rocks near it. But it's interesting to note that the Romans had a different name for the Black Sea. They would call it Palus Asphaltites, and that's where the term asphalt comes from. Throughout history, bitumen was only used to stop leaking, mainly for a roof of a building. But that's until we get to the 19th century, when the British and the French start using a lot of bitumen on all of their buildings because they realize it's the best material to stop leaks inside a building, especially houses. This causes a whole lot of bitumen to be used, and since there isn't a lot of it in the natural world, the prices start to rise. On the other side of the pond, the United States is not using bitumen to stop leaks whatsoever. They're looking for new ideas. An idea on how to make roads more smooth. The Americans wanted their roads to be so smooth, especially in New York City and Washington, D.C., that they were considering bringing granite to make the roads smoother. But you have to know, at this time there is no cars. There are only bicycles and chariots with horses. But they still wanted to smooth out the road. The want for smooth roads made a lot of engineers and scientists to figure out a new way on how to smooth out roads. Eventually, in the year 1876, the first asphalt road is built. And what they did is basically created the first ever type of asphalt. Mix bitumen with gravel, and the first road that asphalt was laid was Pennsylvania Avenue, Washington, D.C. It was an extremely important invention, especially for the Americans, because it was the 100th anniversary of the American independence, and it was a very special time. Just like we said, the first ever road was created before cars were even invented. So this smooth road was made for chariots and bicycles. We move forward and we get to the year 1900. At this time, most American roads in the cities, especially New York City, Washington, D.C., and other cities like Philadelphia, have asphalt roads. But still, more than 99% of the American roads are not paved, they're dirt roads. And the reason was that there was not a whole lot of bitumen available to mix it with gravel and make roads all over the country. We're at a time where asphalt is extremely important, and not in the United States anymore, all over the world, because the automobile has been invented and it's slowly taking over. When you're faced with a situation like this, especially scientists and engineers try to find a new way on how to solve the problem. And one of the problems was how to create a whole lot of asphalt that doesn't cost a whole lot of money. At this time, oil had already been discovered and it was being used especially as kerosene, and Rockefeller has become one of the richest men in history because of it. But they still hadn't realized that you could grab this type of bitumen from the oil, and eventually they realized how to pull the bitumen out of crude oil, and the problem was now solved. It was really black gold because after this technology was discovered, roadways became a whole lot easier and simpler to build. And of course, Henry Ford has made the automobile in a way that everyone is able to afford one. So the roads are needed more than ever. It was after this that the first freeways were created. Another interesting fact is that freeways didn't really hit Europe until after World War II. Hitler also said that we need to make German roads like American roads, because at this time Germany did not have any highways. It was basically after World War II that asphalt truly took over the world. Anywhere a road was being built, asphalt was involved, and it wasn't dirt road anymore. The first generation asphalts were terrible compared to what we have now, because they would get cracked and they wouldn't last as long. The technology was moving forward, and not only in the asphalt industry, but in the heavy equipment and machinery. This is when you're seeing semi-trucks on the road that are much heavier than before. So when you have more weight moving on top of this asphalt, it's going to get damaged. This is when they created more durable asphalt, so it wouldn't crack as easy. It's also in the 1960s where a lot of American highways, especially the ones that have a lot of traffic, are created with concrete. These concrete roads remain to this day because they're much more durable than asphalt. But it's much more expensive, and worst of all, it takes a whole lot of time for this to cure. If you're working on a road and you're using concrete, you have to keep the roads closed for a longer period of time until it's able to be driven on. Working with asphalt is much easier than concrete because all you have to do is heat it up and it gets soft and you can move it around. But with concrete, it gets hard and it's hard forever. Cold is not good for asphalt either. It makes it extremely hard and that makes it brittle. That's why roads get destroyed in the winter, much more common than summer. But too hot doesn't help either, because when the road gets extremely hot in the summer, it gets very soft, and when a semi-truck all of a sudden slams on its brakes, it's gonna roll the asphalt forward, creating bumps. This is another reason there's weight limits on the highways, and you can't get too heavy, because if you're above a limit, you're gonna destroy the roads just by driving on it. It didn't take long for the engineers to realize that one of the most important things about laying asphalt is its foundation. It has to be smooth, and if it's not, the asphalt will crack and fall apart. Also, another important factor is that you have to eliminate every single crack. If cracks remain on the asphalt, water will slowly seep in there and wash the underneath the asphalt. And when it washes out, it creates an empty spot, and if a car drives over it, it will create a pothole. But the technology used for asphalts have not stopped. One of the newest technology used in modern asphalt is that recycled tires get burned into powder, and that powder is mixed with the asphalt. This causes the asphalt to get much more smoother. This causes a lot less noise when cars drive on top of it, and it also causes less friction on tires. Asphalt like this is very new, and you could find it near highways next to nice neighborhoods. But hopefully, all modern roads will be paved with this type of asphalt. Another thing that makes asphalt special is that it's 100% recyclable, and it's not that hard to do so. Concrete is also recyclable, but it's very expensive and it's harder to do so. Recycling asphalt will take only one vehicle. It literally shaves the asphalt off the ground. It will take it inside its kiln and heat it up. It will add some bitumen if it's needed, and then lay it back down. That's how simple it is. So when you drive on a road like this, don't think that it's a simple road. It took years and years of engineering and scientists working on this idea to make it possible.